Hi, my name is Angie Lamar, and welcome to Mother and Daughter on Life. Because that's what we're going to be talking about, just being on life and talking about so many different things. And it is an honor and a privilege to be introducing our co host because, you just can't do it by yourself. You've got to bring the family in. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Jasmine Campbell and Kayla Campbell. Thank you so much, ladies. How you
Hi,
doing?
good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really wonderfully happy that you're here because, having conversations, mother and daughter, and knowing you both and your relationship, it's such an honor to have you both with us because I know that you have a wonderful relationship and I know that we're going to be going through some things, discussing some things.
Looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, so before we start and introduce yourself, a little bit of backdrop into why we started this podcast. True, take us through.
We started this podcast to really just connect with each other, really, because we have conversations all the time, and it's just so much candor whenever we speak. And we realized, I wonder if that other people get to experience this kind of relationship, this kind of bond, and this kind of openness with their mothers, because we have friends that we can go to and talk to about everything, like everything under the sun. But do we talk about this kind of stuff with our mothers? And we just really wanted to bring that conversation to the world and see how other people have their relationships.
So at this point, let me introduce Jasmine. Jasmine, tell us a little bit about yourself and who is Jasmine?
Oh, good question. I think at big old age, I'm still trying to work it out. Let me just
Who
put
is
that out
this?
there right now. So yeah, I'm Jazz Campbell. Jasmine when I'm in trouble. So
Yes.
the name on the screen says Jasmine, but yeah, it's Jazz.
Yeah.
I am a 50-something-year-old woman, born and raised in the UK, to a Sierra Leonean mother who came over from Sierra Leone, single mother, just me and her, kind of hustling. So we've kind of had our relationship dynamic. I am blessed to be the wife of an inspirational man, Tim Campbell, and
Yay.
have two amazing, amazing children. Slow your roll, love. Slow your roll. Wait for the intro. Kayla, who you will hear from shortly, and our
Yeah.
14-year-old son, Aaron, who, just have been amazing in the sense that I think through raising and bringing them up alongside Tim, really have had to check myself, learn more about myself, humble myself. There's been a number of things we've gone through. Day job, I'm a consultant. I'm a diversity, equity and inclusion consultant working for a big consultancy firm, working predominantly in the financial service industry. So with all the banks, the insurers, and the financial institutions. And really the drive for that and me getting there is been quite organic, but actually is really aligned to my purpose and my drive around kind of creating, a better landscape for the generation coming up.
Wow.
That's my family.
That's awesome, Jasmine. When you say it like that and you break it down, you go, okay, okay. Like when people see you in pictures next to Tim and they try to probably work out, who is this lady? Who is this lady? Well, that's who she is. Okay.
Amen.
Kayla, tell us about yourself.
Oh gosh, I should have gone first. I'm Kayla-Johnson-Campbell, daughter of Jasmine and Tim Campbell. Recently been diagnosed with ADHD, which has been the phase of this part of my life, I've been calling it. And that journey has actually been amazing for me and learning more about myself, especially starting work. I also followed my mummy's footsteps and became a consultant, but I chose technology to specialize in. But I definitely also have that hustler gene because in the process of setting up my own matchmaking agency, so relationships and love is my field. But I also did 5 years in hospitality. So I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, but yeah, that is me in a nutshell.
Could you tell us a little bit about ADHD and how it kind of showed itself and made you want to go and tests to find out, well, what is this about me? What were the signs that made you want to look into that?
Yeah. So for me, what triggered it was my brother got diagnosed with ADHD, and I've kind of always been super high performing, top setting everything, pick up something, good at it. When I was at primary school and secondary school, then A levels was predicted, all A stars, ended up getting A, two Bs and a C. And honestly, I was like, what the hell is, to put it into context, I hadn't got a B my whole life. So to come to results day and to get two B and a C, I was like, no, what is happening? But for me, I remember all the way through A levels feeling like I was on autopilot, like I was showing up every day, but I lost that passion and the drive to succeed. So I was like, okay, something's off, but you know what? I'm just burnt out. I ran 100 miles an hour for GCSEs, and I just don't have it in me to just give any more. So I'm just going to show up and do what I need to do, whatever. Went to uni, similar story, was showing up. I was working alongside my uni degree and loved work, but for some reason, education it wasn't lighting my fire, as you'd say.
Yeah.
Cool, finished uni, started work, but again, kind of felt like I was very routine orientated when I was younger. I'd come back from school, I'd do my homework, everything would be in early, A level, everything was on time. And then by uni, like the day before, I'm doing whatever I need to do, but getting everything done on time, but it was definitely a shift in how I was operating. Right. So when I came back and saw Aaron had been diagnosed and seeing him through that diagnosis process, also while I was at uni, the joy of TikTok was telling me all of these things, and I was like, oh, that sounds like me, and oh, that sounds like me too. But ADHD, what is ADHD really? Usually it's just little boys that run around too much, right? It's not me. Yeah. And then I'm hearing the questions that Aaron's being asked to get his diagnosis and thinking, oh, I'm like that. And actually, I've always said me and my dad are very similar. We operate in the same way, but me and Aaron don't typically have the same characteristics. But when you break it down and hearing his story and what he goes through, and I think it's made me and my brother a lot closer, it's like, oh, actually, I do think like that. So I said, okay, cool, actually, at first, I didn't want to get tested. I was like, listen, I am who I am. I've got to where I've got to. I'm in a super high performing job. I made it through. It's part of my story. It's not what was on the paper, but you know what? I did what I had to do. And then I got into work, corporate company, and I realized I didn't have the language to articulate how I function because it's different to most people. So I was high performing on the surface, but under the surface, paddling away like a swan. So actually having the ADHD diagnosis and to be able to tell my colleagues, especially more senior members, that I'm not late because I'm lazy, I'm late because I'm time blind, or I'm not doing 4 things at once because I'm disinterested. That's actually what keeps me focused. Things like that, I've really have found the ADHD diagnosis useful for. So for me, it also was a great experience just to learn more about who I am and how I operate, because I actually got diagnosed with high functioning ADHD. Because to me, I was like, well, executive function, I do that, but actually I don't. When I'm in extreme periods of stress, or you're telling me 100 things at once, my mom will tell you, if you give me more than 4 things to do, I didn't even hear the first thing. But because I'd always operated at a level, people just didn't see that. So to be able to understand, at least from my perspective, okay, this is why I'm reacting like this, and it's not because I'm lazy, or it's not because I'm no longer that shining star. Actually, all the things that are to do with my ADHD diagnosis is what makes me special, and there's some other things that I need to work a little bit extra to navigate the normal world.
And I think that's really interesting, because I think, first of all, I think true, you should get diagnosed, because
I think it starts at PTSD.
Eh?
I said, or tested. But yeah, no, I think I'll probably come out with a diagnosis too.
Yeah, because I think that the same sort of signs, you know what I mean? And I wonder if, because I'm dyslexic, I know that you are, Jazz, as well.
Yes.
And I wonder if there's something in the gene pool, do you know what I mean, that makes us function very different. Because I always thought I was dumb at school. I always thought like, do you know what I
Oh.
mean? I thought the teacher, I thought the teacher was dumb because I already thought that. You know what I mean? So when the teacher was doing it, I was thinking, well, I get it. So I don't have to really behave myself. But when the
Mm,
writing came up, when the books came up, that's when I was lost. I
mm,
knew I was intelligent, but I couldn't really get it out through reading. And so when I got diagnosed quite late in my life. So I had gone through life thinking, oh, don't operate like everybody else. But I think the great thing about finding out what it is that makes you operate is that you start to see your gift. You
Yes.
start to go, I'm not like you. I can't stand up and read off, cue cards and stuff like that. I remember getting offered a job once and they said, I've got to do cue TV prompter. And I'm thinking, you're going to put writing in front of me and then you're going to make it move. I'm like, good luck with that.
yeah.
So it's great. You do get to find out what your gifts are, and then you operate differently. And imagine getting a B and going, what's that?
Yeah, it's ever, isn't it? It's ever. I have a B.
Yeah. What's a B? I'm trying to get to that. You know what I mean? I was way down the list, and so when I left school, I was like, I got to do it another way, and I get that. I get it.
Yeah.
So
I think
lovely.
and you're right, I was diagnosed only like 8 years ago, not long at all. So I've gone through my life, and when I was at school, I had the same experience, but I didn't feel confident. It absolutely, I felt so stupid because, and also I was labeled as being lazy because the effort I was putting in to try, because I can read, I was a typist when I left school, I didn't do the A levels, I didn't go uni because the results weren't translated.
Yeah.
And I was labeled as being lazy. I was labeled as being a liar when I said I was studying. I was being told you're not studying because if you're studying, how are the results looking like? Because back then, it wasn't like you could go on TikTok and see other people like you.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, you didn't have that relatable stuff to kind of go, oh, actually, I need to go and check that. It took my husband to come home, having gone to a talk and hearing someone who set up the British Dyslexia Association to talk about their story and him knowing what was going on behind the scenes, me just trying to hold down a job. He was like, Jazz, you need to go and get tested. And that's how it all came out. So I
Wow.
think to your point and to all of the conversation, getting tested is so, so important because I opened up by saying I'm still learning about myself. I am absolutely still learning about myself. I'm still having to unpick some of those compensating practices I put and rebuild my confidence and lean into who I am and the power that I bring. And often I'm getting there, I can own it, but often Kayla, Tim, the family are like, Jazz, why are you talking so negatively about yourself? Because I've lived so long trying to justify everything I do. So just having that knowledge and understanding of who you are and getting those strategies to help you navigate that, it's so,
Yeah.
so important.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
and there's like a level
absolutely.
of acceptance that needs to take place too, because I know in the Black community there's no such thing as mental health. It's like you're mad or you can do the things that you are told to do.
So true.
Like when I was trying to, I remember going down the rabbit hole of thinking, I think I might have ADHD. Like all these signs, it's showing up. Like, and I would bring the conversation to you, mom and dad, and it'd be like, bro, no, it's not. It's not. What is this? But it gradually gets worse. Like this, I think the symptoms have just been worsening over time, and they come to a realization. It's like, oh, there actually might be something here because this don't make sense. You've been very consistent, and now that we're very aware of the symptoms or how it may display itself, you look like you might have ADHD. And I'm actually not gonna lie. I think it's the same here. I think I got it from my dad too, because we relate on another level that's not realistic. Like we're exactly the same, and to the point where we might clash, where it's like, oh, I'm looking in a mirror. I got it from you.
It is genetic. To the point about gene pool, it is genetic. So,
Yeah.
so the ADHD itself is genetic. You can have combinations of ADHD. So you can have autism and ADHD. So I was actually tested for both. because that's where they thought that my love of order comes from. Like also when with relationships, I'm very black or white. You're in or you're out. There's no gray space. I don't do, ooh,
Yeah.
I don't like you, that's okay, you stay over there. So you can have a combination of them, but also they say that neurodiverse people generally flock together. So you'll have often friends that have ADHD or dyslexia, or because quite frankly, we like people that are like us, and often there's not many people like us, so we all flock together. So yeah, there's definitely a genetic aspect. There are also really early studies that say people that come from immigrant parents or are immigrants themselves or have immigration in their bloodline, Black folks, are more likely to develop ADHD, because actually ADHD is an evolutionary thing that because we had to adapt to so many different changes, our brain thinks at 100 miles an hour. I don't know if they've concluded that study, but personally...
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me.
And actually, that's how it feels sometimes for me. I didn't know about dyslexia, but for me, it feels like I'm always assessing everything. What am I doing? What time do I need to be there? What do I need to do tonight? Da, da, da. So when you ask me something, you've just interrupted my brain pattern. I don't know where I was in my list. Now you've gone and added something to the list. I don't know where to prioritize it. It's just all coming and I'm just moving through. That to me sounds like survival.
So
yeah.
do you feel overwhelmed a lot?
Not if you leave me alone.
Facts. That's
I
it.
do.
Facts.
If I am operating, so when I was at uni, I had the time of my life. I went to York. I was working, I was studying, it was all independent. I was living how I wanted to live. When I wanted to go and do my washing, I went and did my washing. When I went to work, I went to work. When I went to...
I know what's coming here, Kay. I know what's
went to
coming here.
lectures.
When she came home.
When I came home, but also when I started working in a corporate environment where it's very collaborative,
Okay.
you have to work together. Because when I was in hospitality, I did all the jobs. And in hospitality, you can say, well, I don't know if many people do, but ADHD. I said, listen, I want to learn everything. I did some time as a pastry chef. I did some time as a waitress. I did some time as a receptionist. I was all over the place. But again, I could just say, do you know what? I'm bored of this. I'm going to move on. In the real world, you can't really do that. So now I'm waking up. I don't want to sit in 4-hour calls all day. I just don't want to do it, but I have to do it. So now I'm doing that. But really this morning, I didn't want to go on 4-hour calls because I know I'm going on holiday later on in the week. I need to go to Boots. I need to pick up this. I need to go back to the house to get this. I need to do this. And now you're asking me to write minutes for the meeting. I don't want to write minutes for the meeting. I've got things to do. So for me, it's like, how do I balance what is in my head, what other people are expecting of me? And then I guess when it's really stressful, it's like, oh, I want to be able to do something, but my body literally will shut down. I'll sleep for hours at a time and people will say, look, I'm known as the nap queen. When I get overstimulated, I need to sleep. Just.
And I'm outside the door saying, excuse me, why haven't you executed what I've asked you to execute? And you're going to sleep. You're telling me you need to sleep.
The way this is a perfect matching, it's like I'm sitting here going, is your name True? Because honestly, my daughter can power nap, sorry True, but when True goes to sleep, I think it's not nighttime. That level of deep sleeping, how is that even possible? Like,
I need a reset.
It does make sense. I've got to say, it does make sense. But I'm like you. I'm like, she wakes up at 7 o'clock. Kayla wakes up at 7 o'clock, and then I'm like, how are you going to go back to sleep in like 3 hours? She's like, Mum, stop it. I keep telling you, it's not an issue. And I'm like, I just don't understand it. And to your point, Angie, about feeling overwhelmed, I think this is one thing that we in our household are kind of navigating. And one thing I really love Kayla for, because as an ADHDer and a dyslexia with most probably a bit of an ADHD thing, I haven't been tested for ADHD. I'm just like, let me just deal with the one for now. No more. But I think there's a lot, and with Tim and Aaron as well with the ADHD and stuff, there's a lot we are navigating. And actually, as much of the disruption I feel that the recent diagnoses have brought to our household, I think and feel that it is actually bringing us together and also giving us space to give each other space to just be and accept and let us all find our own way. And one thing I really, really do praise God and thank Kayla for is she often, and I think we both try and do it. We both have our little spat, and then we just pause and just remember that we're both trying to navigate our way in our own way. And actually we take the time to stop and explain and articulate where I'm coming from, where she's coming from. And we might not land on the same page, but I think I do totally respect and appreciate the fact that Kayla often goes, knowing that the rest of the house of ADHDers and I'm the only dyslexia who wants kind of some structure so that I can even start to think, and they're not structured, right? So that balance is just, it's hard. But she's always the one that's like, you know, Mum, but this is where I'm coming from. I am going to get to it. Or do you need me to do it now? If you need me to do it now, let me know so I can prioritize it in the way. She always takes this time, which I really, really, and you know, it's really important because otherwise my morale starts to go, you know, so we have to be respectful of each other in the space. And I guess that's the same for the workplace as well. You know, there are different people, so many different, do work in different ways. It's about bringing your best self and how do we support each other so that we can all do that and flourish, right?
And I think that's really important that you say that, because I think that you can feel like you're when you're dyslexic, you can feel like you're by yourself. And I'm going to move on in a minute, but you feel like you're by yourself, and you do need. I think I sent a text to True sometime last week saying you are the daughter that I prayed for. You know, you are, because she can go into my head and go, all right, there you go, do that, do that, whatever. And sometimes she'll go, like you say, she'll go, okay, Mum, do you need it now? You know what I mean? And I don't like to make people feel like they're doing things for me, because I like to do so much for myself. And I think that's worked for me in the business that I'm in. I can just go, all right, no one help me, then I'll get on with it and whatever. And then she'll come quietly to the side and go, Mum, do you need me to do that? I'm like, yes, I do. But
they do it in 5 minutes, but we've been trying for the last 5 hours.
That's right. And then she'll come, all right, there it is. I think, thank you. Thank you so much. Do you know what I mean? Because and it's a gift. It's a gift that we have. I think this opening episode is about that. That's another episode we've got just by saying hello. So fantastic. So we can, and I think that's going to be really great for people to watch and hear us in that space talking about those things that we're navigating, because there's a lot of people who are undiagnosed. They haven't tested. They haven't really gone into it because people are scared to find out what is wrong. It's like sickness.
Especially with the stigma that people have around it. And I just think, just get rid of that, man. Try to help yourself and try to understand other people, because it makes living so much easier. Like,
So it's International Women's Month, and when it comes to honoring that special person that says, you know what, when I think about a woman that is special to me, you know, they could be famous, they could be somebody that inspired you, somebody that made you feel good about yourself, somebody that touched you, somebody that said something to you that was really made you think about yourself. Who would that woman be, Jasmine?
I mean, the easy go-to answer is absolutely my mother. You know, as I touched on, she came over from Sierra Leone in the early 70s, fell pregnant with me pretty soon after. Dad's never been around, or father, bigger, has never been around. And she came over as a trained nurse. She had to retrain because, you know, we are in this country a bit arrogant, and, you know, you've come over from an African country, therefore you don't know how to do the job, so you have to do the whole training again. So she did it with me as a young child, doing shift work, working nights, but in the days she took the time to take me out, to let me see London, let me learn, you know, she raised me wholeheartedly in doing that. And when you say the word resilience,
Yeah.
and just pushing forward. That was my mum. Like the abuse, the racism, the stuff she dealt with on the streets of this country, as well as day to day in her job with patients and their families, abusing, spitting, like all kinds of stuff that go on in the NHS, even today. But then it was just off the scale. And coming home and still showing up to me as my mother was, she's inspirational. I think the thing for me though that tips it was she took the NHS to tribunal and she won for discrimination. So she basically progressed when she retired, gosh, about 20 years ago now, like a while ago now. When she retired as the highest kind of nurse. So she was a site practitioner. So that's one way she could basically prescribe medication when the doctors weren't on shift, etc., etc.
Okay.
She is amazing. And even today, retired, she's still out there. She's still hustling. She's supporting others. She's bereaved. Like, she is absolutely my inspiration. And whenever I feel like we often joke that actually she's going to be looking after me because I've got all the ailments and I've got all the issues, and she's still like going, like she's still traveling, she's still helping other people, she's doing the church, so she is absolutely inspiration. Also to add, there are many, 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 many Black women, including people on this screen I'm seeing in front of me today, who, for very different reasons, just get me to move. Because sometimes I'm down, like it gets me to just keep pushing, because you know what? That person over there, I know what they've gone through. And you know what? They're not making excuses. I need to keep pushing. So for me, front and foremost is my mother.
Wow, fantastic. True.
I would say the same thing. I would say my mother and grandma. That entire story, I just can't stop seeing grandma in my head. Like the things that she's able to accomplish. She's managed to do so many things. Like Kayla said, jack of all trades. But grandma's a jack of all trades and master of all. She knows how to type. She knows how to sew. She knows how to bake. She knows how to cook. There was just so many things that grandma was able to do. And my mom, of course, because like I said last week, I was like, God gave me a mom I need. Like, this is a person that understands my language to the absolute T. And the things that you managed to accomplish and how you just don't care. Like, the thing that one thing I want to take away from you is the don't care spirit. Because why should I care about so many things that cloud me or want to make me stop doing things or achieve things in the world? Like, yeah, you would definitely be my inspiration. And that's my highlight.
Thank you. Kayla.
Gosh. And my mommy too. But I will still say you because don't start crying. I know you. But I do think you are always the one pushing other people. Always. You are always everybody else's supporter. And that's why I do make it my job to make sure someone is cheering for you, because as your intro will show, you have more than enough for people to be cheering you on. So yeah, it is you. But also Black-owned woman business that Olanuko, she's a wedding dress designer, and she basically has disrupted the market because she is known for her pattern matching for darker skin tones, and she is killing the game. She's just about to launch a new collection. She's just launched a new collection, and every single collection I'm like, oh my God, can't wait to get married just so I can wear the dress. But yeah, I just wanted to shout her out because I've been watching her work for a while and she is phenomenal.
I would say my mum. My mum, as I'm here nursing my mum, who is kind of like, getting on. And for me to move to Jamaica and just say, that's it, I'm going to live in Jamaica, look after. I was always coming to live in Jamaica, but this was just brought to my attention sooner. My mum is amazing, True is right. She can do everything. Sometimes I sit on this land and it's a big piece of land. She came here, I was a little girl when she looked at the land and said, I'm going to build a house. And I kept thinking, well, why don't you just buy a house? Why would you build one? And her dream, she calls this house Faith Villa, because for her, she did it all by faith. She just believed, I can have that house. She used to watch Dallas, and it's like she had this dream for this big house with these things on it. And I just thought, you did it. You were amazing. You didn't have the education, but you had the will and the ambition to do it. And she's always taught me, I get the don't care spirit from my mum. My mum's deaf in one ear, and she had to navigate people thinking that she was rude. Like, she used to get beaten a lot when she was younger because her mother thought, you never hear me. I tell you to do this, but she didn't hear you. And the scars that are on her legs for the beating that she used to get. And I just look at her sometimes. I saw her in the veranda the other day sleeping, and I thought, look at you. You did it. You did it. And that's why I don't have the don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care. I've got a very bun use. So what? And you have to have that spirit as a comedian, because you've got to go on the stage and you've got to make people laugh. And if they're not laughing, you've got to find a way very quickly to get through. And in any situation, I can find a way very quickly to get through. So I get that from my mum, and I'm really proud of her. So, let's talk about traditions. Let's talk about like how we were raised versus how the younger generation are doing things. Because sometimes when I'm watching, I don't know for you, Jazz, when you've seen some of the young kids today, and things that we would never do, things that we would never say out loud. And, we were trained, how will you call it, to wash, cook and clean, do things the way our parents or mothers have taught us how to do them. But the next generation that we are creating, that we have raised, are so out there that I do feel a bit sometimes worried about them. I don't know if you feel the same, Jess.
Yeah, I definitely worry because, there's a generational difference, right? To your point around kind of what the generation before has taught us we need as skills to survive, right? And I guess when I think about it, I think there's two kind of halves of me. One half is really worried, and one half of me is like, oh, good on you, go for it, like do things differently. I think there's definitely worry around some of the basics that I like to call. So like you say, being able, I keep saying to my son, Kayla's a lot, and again, different generationally between Kayla and my son is very different. Maybe boy, girl as well is the difference. But I am very like, you need to be able to look after yourself. When I feel you're comfortable enough to navigate like being out and about, you're making the right decisions, you're looking out for the right things, you're not being in your phone, led down the street, and not being conscious of your surroundings. When you can, pick up after yourself, keep yourself tidy, all of that kind of stuff, cook for yourself, look at, and bring yourself, then I can relax and I'm going to stop nagging you. So I do have that worry in the sense of the home, the basics in life, the things that you need to do, hygiene, look after yourself, make sure you're cleaning yourself properly, all of those things, absolutely. I think I do tussle between worry, kind of, you go get it, just change up the narrative when I see the difference generationally in terms of being a lot more out there and a lot more bold and confident in kind of what they are seeking for themselves, right? And I think, if I'm honest, I think there's definitely a bridge that we have to bring the generations together in any generational shift.
But then, Kayla, do you think when your mum is being overprotective and saying, be careful of doing this, doing that, the streetwise, all of those things, at what point do you want to say, I get it? Because when I'm watching some of you young kids I say young kids, but I'm saying young people on screen talking, the sexualization, sometimes that conversation that come up, I think, oh my God, they think that's okay now. But in about 5 years' time, they're going to perhaps wish they hadn't said it. Do you feel like there's a little bit, we're probably stuck in an old way?
Good question. I don't think so. I'm torn because I think my personal experience with it and our relationship with it, Mum, has been very good. You've never told me, do you want to leave the house looking like that? But I also think I've always known the right level, and you've taught me what is the right level. So it always had the boobs or bum rule. Don't show both boobs and your bum. So I know, like, I can look at myself in the mirror and go, this is a lot. Like, but by no means am I, fully modest. So I know the level. I also think the bit that I think we haven't got as a generation is understand how to read the room. There is a time and place to be all bears all. Like, I'm going to tell you every single detail, what I did, when I did it, who I did it with, every 2 minutes, with my best friend behind closed doors, not in front of a camera.
Yes.
Then there is a time and a place to push the generations, because I do think we will never make change if we can't be outspoken. So I do think we need those trailblazers to say, listen, we're doing it differently. We are not going to just be subservient and our one big goal in life is to get married. We're going to do something differently. Similar, I'm sure for your generation, you would have had to do things differently. For example, mum or dad have never beat me as a child. I never got beat as a child. That was not a thing. That was probably a huge shift in how you have to think about parenting. So I think when we talk about moving with the times and what we need as a community, we need more people to say, actually, yeah, we've always done things like this, but it's not working. We need to change it. But I do think we really need to adopt not everything needs to be on 100 all the time. And I think that's the issue with social media, because everything moves so quickly and we kind of work in this trend cycle. We're almost competing for clickbait. Who is going to blow up fastest? And actually, often forget, people make money off social media. And the easiest way to make money is to get the most amount of interactions. And often people say outlandish things on social media because they know they're going to get more views, more shares, more saves. And that's going to generate their revenue. That is paying their bills. What we're not doing is behind closed doors, having these conversations with our mothers and our daughters and saying, okay, she's saying that, but what do you think about it? Or how do you feel about it? Instead, because we're not having those conversations, our generation are just making our own decisions and following. So I do think there's a lot of people that in 10 years' time will go, really shouldn't have done that, or I didn't even feel comfortable doing it when I did it, but that's what everyone else was doing.
And I think there's so...
Sorry, I was just going to say, because we have the relationship that we do, I can then be able to make my own decision coming from a place where I know that person has good intentions for me. That's, I think, the part that's what causes you to form that judgment about when is the right time and when is not the right time, and who are you in all of that conversation, rather than just following what everybody else seems to be doing.
And I think that really helps in terms of where I said, like, oh, I'm kind of like worried. Like, yes, I do worry. I think it also highlights the importance of community, because not everyone has this relationship that we have. Not everyone has, the opportunity, to the point of us having these conversations, right? That they don't have someone that they can go to who can go, and actually, you might want to just think about what the impact of that is down the line. So it is very worrying and actually quite sad that, some people don't have that place to go to. There are going to be others, though, let's be clear, who are like, I can make money this way and I'm going to do, if it's legal, if there's no problem with me doing it, I'm going to go and do it. So I guess it's as it's always been. There's always going to have to be those people in the house, in the community, that are actually able to get their arms around those and give their point of view. They say you can lead the camel to the water, but you can't make it drink, right? So there's going to be so many elements. There's so many levels to that I think for us, we just have to navigate as they come up.
I think so. I mean, when I see some of the stuff on media, on social media, and I do feel a sense of protection to some of the young ladies that are talking a lot of sometimes nonsense, absolute rubbish. And I say that because I look at that and I think, you have no expertise in that. You have no understanding about what that really means when you're saying to people, you can have how many body counts, you can sleep with who you want, the man's got to have this, he's got to have that. You want to go, oh my God. I mean, what do you think? But you can't say nothing because you're old fuddy-duddy, you're old this or that. And so it's difficult to then say to young people, no, you want to check yourself, you want to shush,
You
because
want to
this
have
stuff,
respect for yourself.
yeah, because if you say that to anybody, have respect for yourself, what does that conjure up to a young person? They
Mm.
go like,
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely different times and definitely very, very worrying. Um, I was going to say I was just paused because I was like, what would my mum have said was the thing that our generation did that to them was just so out there. I guess the terminology and the stuff now, and actually to your point around body count and all of those conversations, yes, let's be clear, that is very, very disturbing and worrying, because it's not just about the girls going out there and what they're saying, it's also about how they're prepared to be treated by young men or by their partners. It's also about how young men or partners feel that it's okay to get away with things. And absolutely, to your point, down the line, that's going to have a catastrophic impact on society and communities. So it is very, very, very
and
worrying.
that's because
Really.
there was shame attached. I don't know, for your generation, True and Kayla, that I don't see as much shame.
But
Like,
that's what I was going to ask True. For me, when we talk about when we're hearing advice from the older generation,
mhm,
I think the knack to that is the judgment. When my
Mm.
mum comes to me and says, Kayla, what are we doing right now? And luckily, we've never had that conversation. But I know if
yeah,
my mum did come, it's coming from a good place. And I trust that she'd only say it because she genuinely cared about me. To
yeah,
the point about community, if I don't have the community and you haven't been here for the whole 20 years of my life, now you want to come and tell me about myself, you don't know me. Look, the wall's already up. So I think instead, build a relationship, understand where that girl is coming from. Maybe she's got a past of sexual abuse. Maybe actually she saw her mother do the same thing. Like there's so many other things at play. Often people look at someone and go, I wouldn't do that, so you shouldn't do that. And that I'm telling you off tone, I
yeah.
think is where a lot of us shut down. Because for me, it's like I'm also grown too. And I think that's another thing that has shifted with our generation is just because you're younger than me means I'm the superior. Where our generation, it's actually when you're 18, you're now an adult. So you really can't tell me anything. But that's why I think sometimes it breaks down. I don't know about you, True, but that's how
I feel like we're probably it's a weird one because I feel like we're stepping into a place of hold these people accountable. They're adults, 18, you made your own decisions, but it's also like they are still quite young people and they're very easily influenced. And if you're on the social media and you're telling people to have live life with and have no regrets, what does that actually mean? You're not actually considering what that person's future is going to look like. You don't know what that person's plans for their career path, how this conversation on the internet is going to affect them when they're 25 and they're going to go, I wish I didn't listen to that one influencer who just said, just live life and just go, man. Like,
Yeah, because the thing is, at the end of the day, I suppose what we're trying to say is that we've gone up the road a bit further, and so we're looking back, going, you know what? In hindsight, that might not be a good idea. In hindsight, when you want to settle down and you're on social media saying, I sleep with this, I sleep with that, and when I check a man's private parts, I'm this, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. Tomorrow, when you've sat down and you've got your job and you're sitting there and you're looking for that partner, you probably don't want that to come up on social media.
Absolutely.
And when I've always said to True, when it's out there, someone's got it recorded, someone's
Yeah.
got it, and this is where the cancel culture is coming in now, because people are going back in time and going, remember you said this? Yeah, well, that was my 18-year-old self. Yeah, well, we don't care, you said it.
And even with job applications, people, they're looking at your social media before
Yeah,
you like sometimes before you sit in front of them, they've gone through and checked all the social media. So that's happening. It's definitely, you know, food for thought. And people need to pause and think about that. I think to Kayla's point, the importance is how do you how do you engage with those individuals so that they can see it from that point of view? Because they are at this. I'm here now. I'm not thinking, excuse me, you've had your life. Can you leave me alone to leave mine? That's the attitude, right?
Yeah.
So that's where is how do you unlock that so you can actually go, well, actually, you need to really think about it, but do it in a way that it's not being preached to them. So I think that's a really valid point.
Yeah, and I think this is why this is the podcast Mother and Daughter, because I think there's mother and daughter conversations that are not being had that we are privileged to, because we can say our mothers are guiding us, are watching us, you know, making us go through the society, knowing exactly what it is we're trying to do. So like we move forward and liberating young children, young women to say, you are in control of yourself. You know, the young Black women today are just amazing. And they are doing some phenomenal things that I look back and I think, I love it. I love that. And but is there a community spirit there together? Is there?
Sorry, just on the point about all the Black young women that are doing amazing things. I think often sometimes we get caught up in social media and think that represents all of us. That doesn't represent all of us. There are so many different, yes, we're all having different conversations that we would have been having 20, 30 years ago, but not everybody has decided that they want to be a social media influencer. There are lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, men, like all different walks of life are within our community. And I think sometimes we get so caught up on what we're not doing right or what's going wrong that we forget to celebrate the good stuff, because I actually think that is the majority of our community. And those people will slip through the cracks and end up being encouraged to follow the craziness because that's what's getting the attention. So yeah, I just wanted
When it comes to relationships though, because you know, I started my relationship very young. So David and I have been together forever, and we just found each other. We became great friends. Same for you, Jazz. You know, you go back long with Tim. You know, it's a friendship. It's those things. When I look at the relationships out there, for you ladies, I'm sitting there going, I'm worried. I'm worried because
There's just this is another thing. I feel like there's a complete blurred line between internet and reality. So there are people that I've encountered in my life, and I think, oh, you have an internet mind. It's just a term that I've given for myself. And this is an internet mind. You speak like the people on the internet. You buy the things that you buy on the internet. You look for a partner because everybody in the internet is looking at this person. And I realize, oh, we're gonna struggle because you want a look in your relationship, in your love life. You don't actually want the partner. You want the pretty girl that everyone wants, but you don't have the skills to be a good partner. You don't have the skills to be a good boyfriend or girlfriend. You don't have to have a conversation. You know how to talk about consuming because you know you're a consumerist because you live in a capitalist society. And so I think that we have a huge issue because I'm not gonna lie to you, Kayla, I can't see any people who are not on the internet anymore. And so I'm gonna need your help with
Well, I was just gonna say that is why we are setting up the agency.
Yes.
Because for me, online dating, I think, has been a monumental shift in how we get together. The issue is, particularly in our communities, we don't have good examples of relationships. So again, I think true, we're very lucky. We saw our parents, like usually, I don't know about you, but in my friendship group, my parents are the love story. Everyone is trying to be my parents. So for me, that also posed pressure to fulfill that look. We want to be the power couple, or you have to shower me with roses and take me to the Shard. But actually, because we've never seen what real love looks like, that's why we flock to those things. So the agency is all about, are you actually ready as a person to be in a relationship, to actually fall in love, not to post pretty pictures on Instagram, but are you ready to truly build something with somebody else, not just to make money or to get likes on social media, but what's it about you that you really want to give to somebody else and also gain in return.
But do you find, but sorry to cut you, but do you find that in the sense that you talk about Shard, you know, we earned that position to get to the Shard. We earned that position to get those gifts, those jewelries, those dinners, those wonderful things that we earned that because we built together. But when we were at the kebab shop or when we were sitting down in the car or on the bus trying to make it work, what is it about this generation that thinks you got to have 100K to start dating me, and if you ain't got no money, or what is the pressure to have all these things?
Because social media is telling men they have to have 100K point blank. They're telling women that you need to just, your body is what is your value. So then now the two of them have come together and said, well, I'm an alpha male.
Yeah.
All I can offer is money. And you've got the woman going, to look this good, you have to pay for my upkeep, nails, hair. And then together they go, oh, perfect match. Then there's grief. No one knows how to communicate. There's you lose your job now. I've got to find somebody else. There's another woman, when you reach 40 and your body don't look like the body used to look because you've had 3 kids, that all of a sudden, oh, someone over there looks, you know, how you looked when you were 20. So now you have all sorts of things. Also, I think with social media, there is infinite choice. Before, when you couldn't see everything that was out there, you had a pool of 10 girls that you used to see every week in the club. And it was like, oh, well, you know, I kind of sat and talked to her at the bar and we had a connection and and, you know, I got to know you. Now I don't need to get to know you because me and you, we don't even have to meet up in person. It's not a thing where you have to take me on a date. We could be talking for 2-3 months before we actually see each other. And then when we meet each other in person, it's like, well, yeah, have one little spit and it's like, oh, well, don't worry, there's someone else waiting for me.
And there's also this new conversation going around of, I know mum used to always tell me, yeah, you're building with them their potential. There's a complete shift in thinking, no, I'm not going to build with this person's potential because what if they don't live up to it? What if what I'm seeing here now is what I have for the rest of my life? So there's a lot of intolerance that people are facing with relationships today. They'll think, is this person actually going to do the things that they said they're going to do? Are they actually going to be the successful businessman they want me to wait on while he's broke? And then because they're looking at all the other stories of people who said, oh yeah, I'm going to achieve all of this, and then he turned out to be a nightmare at like 53. And so people are thinking
the other way where people are falling in love with people's potential or their image. So what is social media? Like, oh, I want to live that lifestyle, but really behind closed doors, it's not that, because social media is still telling them that that's the life they're living and they're still getting positive gratification externally. They can kind of neglect what's happening behind closed doors, because really we can both be scrolling on our phone and living that extraordinary life together.
It's so worrying to me. It's so like,
that's right.
Tim and I often sit down and say, God, if ever we, God forbid, we
had to start again.
I ain't starting nowhere. No, I'll be like, thank you. I'm
the
happy.
Way I'm in the garden, the way I'm in the garden and just walking my dogs happily, you know.
It's so to hear this, and obviously Kayla and I have had a lot of conversations as like navigated kind of dating age thing. I've seen some good examples. We've got close family who met on dating sites. They're happily married with children. They were lucky they found the right people. And then they're older, they're like the generation below us, our siblings and stuff. And then you hear some of these stories and the you know, all of the different sites, and the social media has a lot. It's a powerful thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a great way, a tool for you. But there is so much it has to answer for, because to hear this, it does absolutely worry me. You know, Tim and I have been together, 26 years. We, to your point, Angie, started off, I was in a like civil public sector job. Tim was, you know, studying at uni, doing his stuff. Like, we didn't know, I don't even think we had that conversation about kind of that showed what we're doing now. We navigate life together, and to your point, it's about you get that bond, this friendship. And I would hope that whether you meet someone in a club, you know, out and about, on social media, the mindset has to be key. So if you're going into relationship and I think this is to the point of the dating agency that you're working on, Kayla. It's about what is it you truly want to get out of the relationship? Because if it is for the social media and the external, don't call it a relationship, because that is not a relationship. I'm sorry. There are so many powerful Black couples that I'm fortunate to have in my circle, right, who have gone through living in the depths of South, East, West London, you know, starting off at nothing. Some of them have met at school, some of them have met through, you know, in later years through raving, different stories, how they've come together, but actually they've been able to grow together, build together, whatever that looks like. And I think for me, and for Tim, and he might say different, but I think one of our key things was I never, ever had like I don't want to say high expectations, like he didn't achieve them or that I didn't think he would, but it was always just about being in the moment.
And that's what I think
about our energy and how we felt together and dealt with whatever situation came before us.
And you didn't know what you didn't know what you wanted. All you know is that I hope he calls. I hope he comes around. I hope I might do this. I might go here. I might go here. So I understand that the young people, we've achieved so much now. You know, we've got all the choices there, but the choice of men and the choice of women, Kayla, I'm going to be watching your agency, because I think it's so needed, and I think the guidance is needed as well, because the privacy of a relationship, you know, people are out there going, this is me, this is what I do, blah blah blah, and it's like, if I could say anything to some young people, is don't give it all away. Don't give away what you can afford. You can't afford to lose, because you can't get it back. And those relationships, because there is a window of opportunities. There's a time to have children. There is a time to go for your dreams. There is a time to get ready for the next stage of your life. You're getting old. We're getting older now. We're at the next stage where we're going, who's going to look after us, Dave, when we get older? You know, what child is going to take care of us? Because I'm now looking after my mum. So time changes and people leave you. All those friends end up going, they get on with their lives and they go, I got married, I'll see you later. I don't do social media anymore because I've gone private, I've got into my life. And you've left a lot of people out there going, what? So what do we do now?
But I also think there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of pain. And that's why for me, yes, the agency is about bringing people together and particularly celebrating Black love, because I do think it happens and it's possible and we can do it as a community. But I also think there is a lot of unresolved pain and trauma within our community, and a lot of it is intergenerational. So a lot of those people saying, I don't need this and I don't want a relationship and I don't know how to grow, is because they've never seen it, or they have seen a fake relationship. Let's be real, social media is not the first fake relationship people would see.
Very true.
From couples that they got together, they dressed up for church and they were happy and smiley in front of the closed doors, behind closed doors, all sorts were going on. So as a child, I'm growing up seeing that relationship and going, this is not working for me, because that Instagram relationship feels familiar. And more importantly, when that happens to me, my mom stayed or my dad stayed. So I'm either going to stay in a relationship that is abusive. We now have more information about that on social media that says that's not it. So the other side says, you know what, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to build my own. That's why Black women are growing their social mobility levels faster than any other group known. That's why now you can't step to me and tell me we're growing. I've grown. What are you bringing? And then the ego of most Black men will say, sorry, I lead the household because that's what I saw all the men around me do. So I think we just need some translation. We need to say, I'm not naked because, you know what, I'm naked because I want to be naked. There's a group there. There's a group that's saying I'm naked because I'm actually crying out for help and support and attention and real love. And I think not everybody, we don't do therapy in our community. We don't do communication like this in our community.
We're getting better at it.
We are 100%. And I think we need to give our relationships and our this generation time to grow with it. We're still learning. We're all still learning. But I think we need to do more learning together.
Okay, well, I'm going to start to wrap this up for today because honestly, we've got so much to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about. So, ladies, I want to thank you for joining us. And wow, this is going to be a journey for International Women's Month to celebrate ourselves and just also share how we get through. Do you know what I mean? Is there anything anybody would like to say quickly?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been enlightening, and I'm looking forward to kind of continuing the conversation. But thank you for having us.
Thank you.